recording as well. Okay, thank you. So in the first part, we tried to study life at a molecular as well as at a cellular level. We tried to study the structure and function of cells. We tried to study the job of the different components present within the cells. And we tried to understand that how molecules can exist together to establish the most wonderful phenomena of all times, which we call as the life. If I can try to relate things for you, and let me try to be little okay, so little final adjustments. I think ab aur koi nahi aayega. I can start my class. I'm really sorry for that. Okay, अभी अभी हुआ वैसे मेरे पहले नहीं थी मुझे खांसी. आप लोगों की क्लास की हुए ना शौक में, आप लोगों की क्लास के चाव में. So let's start. The first part of the biology 100 course is about the life at a molecular level. Whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, everything starts from the atoms. Everything starts from the atoms. And these atoms, when they connect with each other, they create molecules. And when molecules develop some sort of, interplay, some sort of connection with each other, they can establish what we know as life. So everything starts from the atoms and then to the molecules, and then molecules develop some, I must say, biomolecules. Smaller molecules, bigger molecules, and biomolecules. The advent of proteins and the DNA. And then the wonderful structures which we call as the cells. When different cells or the closely similar cells, when the closely similar cells live together, they create what we call as the tissues. When different tissues they work together, when different types of tissues they work together, they create what we call as the organ. And when different organs connect with each other, they create organ system. And different organ system is what creates humans and other animals. So humans, they are the collection of different types of organ system. You can recall some of the organ system which are very famous. Digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, and many others. So humans are the collection of these different types of organ systems. And these organ systems are made up of organs. And organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. And of course, cells are made up of biomolecules and the molecules. And eventually, they are made up of atoms. In the first part, we have studied things at a molecular and cellular level. In the second part, which is comparatively easier, and I'm sure you guys will going to enjoy that part much better as compared to the first one, because you will going to study about yourself. You will going to study different about the structure and functions of different things present within the humans, and that will going to enlighten us in different ways. So in the second part of Biology 100 course, we will going to study about the human systems. Although humans are not confined to a certain system, but biologically we are made up of different types of systems, and that what we will going to study in the second part of the Biology 100 course. And that's is comparatively interesting and more engaging, because it actually helps you to understand yourself, how we eat, how we able to think, how we able to react to different situations, how we can feel, how we can produce energy to execute all the functions of life, how we can walk, how we can talk, and all the related things we will going to study in this part of your Biology 100 course. So the first lecture is about the about the body organization. That means that what is the what is the importance of different organ systems and how they are connected with each other. Having different organ system is still not good enough if all the organ systems are not not connected with each other in a synchronous way. So human body is made up of trillions of cells, and there are more than about 100 kinds, different types of cells are out there. A human being is only able to live if we somehow manage to to make ourselves distinguishable from the environment. For example, from where a human being is started, what is the boundary of the human being? Whatever is present within that boundary is what we call as human, and whatever else is present outside the boundary is what we call as the environment. So we need to maintain the internal systems. We need to create optimal conditions for the efficient execution of all the functions present within that boundary. Maintaining that environment is what we call as homeostasis, that allows the human system and the life to execute the function in the most efficient manner. Having any little change in the internal conditions will going to affect the function severely. For example, human body works well at the temperature of 37. And if because of some infection or some bacteria or due to some virus, if our body temperature is increases like just for 1 degree, and I can tell you that will going to affect the functions of life a lot. And that's what we call as the state of fever. So our body puts a lot of effort in order to maintain the temperature at 37 degrees centigrade, so our body can work in the most efficient ways. So there is a boundary which separate a human being from the environment, and within that boundary we need to maintain the internal conditions. and you will see a lot of delicate conditions are required to be maintained. Temperature is just one of them. The level of water should be maintained as well. Otherwise, we'll started feeling dehydrated. And that is another threat to the life. In a more complex version, we need to maintain our blood pressures. And we need to coordinate between different organs as well in order to execute the function as human beings. So there's a lot of complexity is required, and that is natural and logical because human beings are supposed to be the most advanced, product of evolution. Human beings are supposed to be most complicated product of the evolution. So therefore, human beings should have the most complicated interactions between cells and organs as well. So there are different levels of organization in humans, as I explained earlier. The first starts from the cells, which makes the tissues. The different tissues creates organs, and they create organ systems. Then they coordinate with each other. There is a controlling mechanism which coordinate all those organ systems together. There is a cost of complexity. The complexity do have a cost. We are very complex, and there is a little trouble, not little trouble, there's a big trouble associated with that complexity. The complexity in the human beings give us ability to do wonderful things. We have managed to do a lot of wonderful miracles, and all of those miracles are dependent on the level of complexity we humans are having. But that complexity is a very big cost, is carrying a very big cost, that we will never be able to exist as human if we lose the function of any one of the organ system. I mean, even if you are wonderful, you are dead if you don't have a digestive system. So without digestive system, no life. Without respiratory system, no life. Without brain, no life. So in order to exist as a human, we need to have all those organ systems which are coordinating with each other and controlled by certain mechanisms, which are maintaining the internal conditions and controlling the functions at a very cellular levels. And all of that complicated execution of choreography, I must say, give us the wonderful thing and a wonderful evolutionary product we call humans. Any question from here? The thing starts from the cells, it goes to the tissues, and then to the organs. Remember, similar cells work together to make tissues. And then different tissues, they work together to make organs. And here are the different examples of the cells. This is an example of the neuron cells, muscular cells, and a very famous red blood cell. And this is an example of an epithelial cell. Remember, epithelial cells creates our outer surface, our skin. Okay, they are called as epithelial cells. Any question? जी अब्बास, अब्बास ने टिक लगाया हुआ है क्वेश्चन के लिए, वैसे है
नहीं सर, वो आपने
अच्छा वैसे है,
क्या आवाज आ रही है तो मैंने वो, हाँ सॉरी, वो मैं
कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं. Anybody else wants to talk on the complexity of human beings and the cost of complexity? I must say there is a cost of complexity. कोई comment करना चाहेगा, कुछ बोलना चाहेगा? So this figure explains that how same type of cells, they make different type of tissues. This is the epithelial tissue. They are made up of similar sort of cells. And epithelial cells, they are required to be packed very tightly because they need to create the protective layer. The neuronal cells, the nerve tissues, they make the nerve tissues. Neurons, when work together, they make the nerve tissues. The job of the nerve tissues is to send the signal from one part of the body to the other. So they are required to be long, and they should have structures which allow the neurons to transmit the nerve impulses. On the other hand, the muscle tissues, they are made up of specific cells, and their cells have the potential to contract and relax. And the contraction and relaxation of the muscles allow the muscles to move. And that give us an ability to change our location. And that make us very different from the plants, I must say. So this is a wonderful example that how different cells and tissues, they work together to make an organ. For example, आपको पता ये क्या है? Do you know what that thing is?
Yes, sir. A stomach.
It looks like a stomach.
Digestive system.
Or
Digestive system.
somebody wants to disagree?
Stomach, yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. We have a lot of people out there. They're trying to learn biology. So this is what we call as stomach. It's a perfect example that how different types of tissues are worked together to make one organ. This is an example of an organ. The first type of tissues here are the connective tissue. Example of the connective tissue is the blood. Blood is a form of connective tissue. It is present in the walls. If you're able to see these small veins or small capillaries and arteries, can you see these small veins here like this? A blood is circulating in the stomach, and a blood belongs to the tissue called as connective tissue. And remember, blood is required by every cell of our body. And you know the reason why, because the blood brings the oxygen, which is required to produce energy. Blood brings the carbon dioxide, blood brings the food, which is required to be metabolized to produce energy. The blood takes away the carbon dioxide gas. It takes away the nitrogenous waste product and the other waste product from the cells. Nervous tissues are also present within the stomach. And that's very interesting. That our stomach is also carrying nervous tissues or neurons. Remember, nervous tissues are made up of neurons. It is required to regulate the function of the stomach. It's a very interesting thing that why the brain is required to be connected with the stomach. Nervous tissues ultimately connect the organ with the brain. Brain का ताल्लुक स्टमक के साथ क्यों होना चाहिए? कोई मुझे बताएगा? इससे क्या होता होगा?
सर हंगर थर्स्ट या बताने के लिए, पेन वगैरह बताने के लिए.
शाबाश. और एक पॉइंट है, इसकी वजह से हम पेन डिटेक्ट कर पाएंगे, स्टमक में पेन है. जी बरीरा.
सर सिग्नल्स ब्रेन को सेंड करने के लिए जब किसी को भूख लगी हो.
हंगर फील करने के लिए, whether we are hungry or not, whether there is a need. If the stomach is empty, it triggers the sense of hunger. Shabash. Or and last but not the least, it regulates the function of the stomach. I'll tell you in detail when I will going to teach you about the digestive system, that the stomach produces acids and different digestive enzymes. These acids and digestive enzymes are responsible for the digestion of proteins within the stomach. And that acid is very strong, I can tell you. It's very difficult for the stomach to manage that acid because stomach produces a protective layer right within inside. It produces a protective layer right within the stomach to protect itself from the dangerous actions of the acids and the digestive enzymes. But those enzymes and acid is required to digest the protein. One interesting fact is that if you think more about the food and you eat less, when you think, your stomach will start preparing about the food. When you think about the food, you will about to have a food, or you are having, you smell the food and you are waiting for the food. At that time, your stomach prepares itself to welcome the food. It starts producing acids and the digestive system depending on the nature and kind of the food. If you are thinking about the chicken, mutton, beef, and I mean a lot of proteinaceous food, your stomach will start producing a lot of acids and the enzymes, because it is expected that a lot of proteins will about to land into the stomach. What if you think more and eat less? If you do not eat enough, but you think about the food a lot, what will happen? वैसे ऐसा कब होता है? When usually it happens when you think about the food a lot, but you are actually not able to eat that much
when you're
amount of food.
fasting.
शाबाश,
जब
कब?
आप वेट लॉस कर रहे हो
रोजे में
रोजे में, अफ्तारी से पहले,
या डाइटिंग वगैरह जब कर रहे हो.
डाइटिंग में तो आप अपने आप को कहते हैं ना कि मैंने खाना नहीं है. When you are expecting the food, like अफ्तारी के वक्त, if you can remember, at the time of aftar, you can smell the food, you can see the food, and you are thinking, पहले मैं ये खाऊंगा, फिर मैं ये खाऊंगा, फिर मैं ये खाऊंगा, उसके बाद ये खाऊंगा, you know. But actually, you might not be able to eat that much amount of food at that time. So your stomach will start preparing itself that a lot of food will be arriving. And if you are not able to eat that much, you know what will happen? Yes. एक और जगह पे ऐसे होता है. There is another situation when you go to the weddings and you are completely hungry. कुछ लोग जो होते हैं वो खाना भी नहीं खाते हैं ना, शादी में जाके खाना खाएंगे. If you are hungry at a wedding and you are waiting for the food, you are planning in your mind, thinking about the food a lot. You know what will happen at that time? Your stomach will start preparing a lot of acids as well as the enzyme which is required to digest the proteins. क्या होएगा? अगर आप कम खाएं तो what will happen if you do not eat enough? Usually ऐसा होता है, हम सोचते ज्यादा, हम खाते कम हैं. We eat less and think a lot about the food under these conditions. Your stomach will be left with extra amount of acids and the digestive enzymes, and this situation is called as acidity. जो खाना खाने के बाद अनइजीनेस नहीं हो जाती, वो कहते हैं मैं बोतल पी के आता हूँ यार, जरा थोड़ा सा हो. That is because of that thing. Another type of tissue is present here is the epithelial tissue. Of course, it creates the lining of the stomach, protective lining, and the very interesting tissue is a smooth muscle. Actually, I will explain you about the smooth muscles later on, but a muscle tissue is also present within the stomach. The job of the muscle tissue is to help the stomach to contract and relax, and that is how the muscle is the stomach is able to chew and grind the food present within itself. So you should be able to understand that how different types of tissues They work together to execute the function of one organ. And if you miss the function of any of the tissue out there, you can guess you will be able to lose the function of the stomach, and eventually it can lead to the death of the human being as well. Okay, so stomach is an interesting example, but stomach is just one organ of the system. For example, in case of digestive system, stomach is just one of the member of the digestive system. Alone, stomach is nothing. It requires the supply chain. It requires the supply chain management system. It requires the other organs and the functions of the other organs as well. For example, our food is not always made up of proteins. It is made up of carbohydrates, fats, salts, water, and other type of minerals as well. So you always need other type of organs in order to consume and digest other types of biomolecules. Stomach, the job of the stomach is to digest the proteins. So you need someone else which should be able to digest the fats and the carbohydrates. So it requires the support of the other organs. For example, mouth, which releases the saliva, and I can tell you the saliva has a lot of jobs. And then pancreas, gallbladder, intestine, all these are associated organs of the digestive system. And interestingly, it is also connected with the nervous system. And I can tell you, every organ which you will be studying is connected with the central nervous system. The central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, is like a master regulator of a human being. It coordinates the organ, it regulates the organs, it regulates the organ system, it coordinates the different organ systems together and then work. So every organ system is connected with the brain or with the nervous system, which ultimately regulate the function of lives. So this complexity which you have just experienced is actually responsible and required to execute these complicated functions. So in the second part of our Biology 100 course, we will going to study different types of organ system. We will definitely going to study the integumentary system that creates our outer boundary, our skin, nails. We will going to study about the skin is a very special thing, and it seems like just a packing material. It's not only the packing material. Allah na kare, if someone lose like 50 to 60% of the skin, जैसे खुदा ना खास्ता आप सुनते हैं, in cases of burn, the 50% skin is gone, वो 50% झुलस गया है, 60% झुलस गया है. That means the person has lost 50 to 60% of the skin, and it is very difficult for such person to survive after that. And that indicates that the skin is not only the packing material, it also regulates very critical functions. We will going to study the muscular systems, and that help us to move from one place to another, that make us better than plants. We will going to study the skeleton system, our bones. We might study the cardiovascular system as well. Respiratory system, definitely we will going to study because we are living in a corona pandemic era. So we should know about everything about the respiratory system. We will study about the urinary system, which excrete the nitrogenous waste product from our body. And we will going to study the digestive system for sure. And any other system which you guys wants me to teach. Okay, so this is my plan, but you can ask me to teach you any other system that includes male reproductive system, female reproductive system, nervous system, or any other system. Okay, that is absolutely okay. You guys can ask me. Or syllabus badne ka khauf nahi khana, okay? But I want you to understand and learn whatever you want me to teach you. Okay, so this is our approach in the upcoming days. And we will see that how different organ systems, they work together, and their close coordination actually help us to live in a normal way. So I am stopping my lecture at this time here.